Hello and welcome to this edition of All In with Coach Bill Hart. And it's always fun when I have the opportunity to introduce you to somebody that I'm coming to know well, and that's the case today. And Enrique Braunschweiger he's just a great guy. He's a man that's full of life and zest and enjoys life so much, and he's so good at these business. And it just hit me the other day in a coaching session. So in complete transparency here, this is a coaching client of mine that, oh my goodness, this is a guy that is so absolutely all in. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to Enrique. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. This is really, really exciting. I was sharing with you that I've had an opportunity to listen to some of the podcasts over the last few days.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, because you hosted some really unbelievable people. But it's very inspiring, and it's also encouraging for me to know that, even though I'm just an independent broker, small, a dad, a husband, that I am all in. I do things, but I believe that, and we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, man. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's part of what struck me. And by the way, at some point in the future, somebody's going to tell your story and they're going to be looking back and saying, man, I heard that interview that you did with Enrique, and I don't know if I can even come close to that, but I'm going to tell you my story. So with that said, I don't want to do what I've learned the hard way. And I think I said this in the last interview that you listened to with Kai McBride. I don't know that people need to hear, an entire background, because I think there's value to that, but I try and keep these relatively short form. And, what I would rather do is kind of just like accelerate to maybe within the last 5 or 10 years, at some point, you ended up in the Coachella Valley in the Palm Springs area. At some point, you ended up being an independent broker in the mortgage business. And then at some point, when we start getting granular, you made the decision to go all in on things like video and training your referral partners. And that's kind of where I want to end up. But if we start up there at the top of the funnel, like how did you end up in the desert? And how does a guy with a name that feels like it's the punchline to a really good joke, by the way, like
right, exactly.
You have to tell that story.
Yeah. So my mom is Mexican and my dad is German. And I grew up in Mexico. I actually didn't come back to the United States until I was 21. Yep. And I happen to have relatives here in the Palm Springs area. So I came here. I had a hotel management degree. So I got a job at the Marriott, started from the bottom, went all the way to the top, became a restaurant manager, then a housekeeping manager, and I ended up in the hospitality business. That was my background. That's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. Somehow I ended up moving to Las Vegas and into Florida with a hospitality background.
Wow.
And then after 9/11 hit, I lost my job. And there were only 2 jobs that were hiring. One was car salesman, and the other one was timeshare salesman. Guess which one I picked? I became a timeshare salesman.
That's
and
right.
I sold timeshares for a long time, and I made a lot of money, and I was very good at it.
Yep.
Everything I know about life, I learned in timeshares, right?
Wow.
That's kind of my motto. But one day, I just got tired of it. It's a grind. It's a tough sale.
Sure.
And it's like you're taking tours and you're trying to convince people to buy something that they absolutely are convinced that they don't need or they don't want.
Sure.
So one day I woke up and I said, listen, I'm done. Either I'm going to go sell real estate or something else, because I had a real estate license. In order to do timeshares, you have to have that. Somewhere along the way, I ended up doing mortgages. And this week is my 12th anniversary as an independent broker, owning my own company along with my wife.
Man.
After having worked for a few brokers. So I've had 17 years in the business, 12 years on our own, and here we are. That's my background.
I love it. Well done, and very succinctly. Thank you very much. And the funny thing is, I remembered the hospitality side, totally forgot about the timeshare side. So let me just ask you that question, like legitimately, because I think, there's probably 3 groups of people that are listening right now, right? You tell me if I'm right on this. That one, there's the timeshare owners, and most people that I know with timeshares like them and are happy that they have them, and whether that's the rationalization of this is why we get away, this is how we get, I don't know what that is, I don't know what the finances are on it. I think there's another group that's like, yeah, I don't know, I've never even really thought about it seriously. And then there's the other group, which I fall into, where probably on 3 separate occasions, I remember. Generally, it was at a low ebb financially, where it's like, honey, I don't know, for $200, we can go have this amazing weekend at this incredible place, and all we got to do is listen to this 90-minute presentation.
That's how we get you.
Right? And I think we've done that 3 times, and it was always weirdly uncomfortable, but not unexpectedly so. It's like, right, the law of reciprocity kicks in, right? And it's like,
well, sure.
Right? I mean, they've given us this amazing trip, and of course I got to go, but honey, this is pretty amazing. Like, we've never bought one. So here's what I want to ask you, and you would never know that I was going to ask you this question. But if somebody was going to ask you right now, like, so after all of your experience in that business, do you have a pat answer for that? Like, run away screaming, or be cautious?
No, I don't. I'm a timeshare owner. I just booked timeshare for my kids they're going to Costa Rica in January. I booked them 2 weeks. I have a week in Hawaii in 3 weeks, and I'm gonna have to cancel because we can't go. I own with one of the prestigious brands, so I'm a believer in the program.
Okay,
I use it, but I know also that it's not for everybody. So what I always tell people is, look, this is, forget the money part, forget the financial aspect. If you enjoy traveling and you can book ahead of time, then it's for you.
Cool.
But do your homework, look at resale options. There's a lot of opportunities there, it's definitely not for everybody. But I mean, I love it, and I know people who love it, and I know people who the next day after they buy it, they hate it. So
right, like pretty much everything else in life, right? I mean,
exactly.
I think you could say that about bacon,
just about everything,
or Ford, right? I mean, it's polarized no matter where you go. Okay, so now you're in mortgage lending. So you know as well as I do that the vast majority of my audience is in mortgage lending or real estate, but there's always people kind of out on the cusp out there that are, just a little bit on the outside. So I'm just curious about sort of your philosophy right now. Like, as we record this, we are at what I hope is the tail end of this bizarre season in history where, we've been shut down for 3 months largely, and depending on where you are in the country now, things are starting to open up, and there's more traffic on the road. And whether you were in whatever it was, phase 1, 2, 3, or my wife is just waiting to go to the nail salon. Like, that's her thing right now, right? But restaurants are opening, and they're at 50% capacity generally, and we're wearing masks and all of that. But with all of that said, I would love to know your view, particularly as someone who came here from another country, on real estate. Like, just talk to me a little bit about real estate ownership, like your personal view.
Well, this is a question a lot of people ask me. What is the market going to do? What do you think? The reality is, it's a dream for everybody. Everybody wants to own a home. Everybody wants to be a homeowner. I happen to specialize in helping a lot of first-time buyers. I would say that 70% of my business is first-time buyers, entry-level buyers, emerging markets, people who need help getting their credit in line. So I'm a firm believer of the fact that homeownership is a great step to move up in life. When a family becomes a homeowner, they are different. They become a different family. They act differently. They look at finances differently. Of course, I'm generalizing. So I think that homeownership is one of those upgrades that families give themselves that have such an impact, the health of their kids. I read somewhere that people who own homes, have healthier kids or more educated kids than people that don't. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know that it does something differently. I know that when I became a homeowner, after having been married for about 4 or 5 years, I was in Florida at the time, it was like a big deal, and it was a big step, and it changed really the way I operated in terms of my finances. So I encourage people to really look at homeownership as a great opportunity to go to the next step in life, but the market itself, it's weird. Right now, it's just weird.
No doubt.
Things that are supposed to be happening are not happening. Like right now, people are supposed to be afraid of buying a home. They're not. People are supposed to be afraid of buying a second home. They're not. Investment properties. They want to buy investment properties. People are very confident in the economy. And it's kind of interesting because if you look at just the paper, you go, what a terrible time to buy a house, right? There's uncertainty. There's unemployment. There's forbearance. There's buybacks, there's overlays, there's all these different things. Well, at the end of the day, people are buying homes. So things are not reacting or happening the way we think, but it's actually good for our industry. You know, realtors are busy, we're busy, rates are phenomenally low. We're in a very, very unique position, a unique situation, you know?
Yeah, it is a unique situation. And, you know, I've been in the business about 30 years, and none of us have ever seen anything like this, 9/11 being about the closest. But, you know, even 9/11 in 2007, 2008 were different because the elements that came together that created the problem were different, right? This was a pandemic. This was a fear of infection. This wasn't a fundamental flaw in our system and its structure, right? So it is different. And yeah, I mean, I just saw an article this morning on Housing Wire that, you know, was talking very specifically about the V-shaped recovery, right, in housing. Here's what I think, and this is just my opinion, doesn't mean I'm right on this, but I'd be curious what you think. Number one, you know this, when you first got into the business, what year was that again?
Well, I want to say 18 years ago, so do the math on that.
Yeah. So
it's right in the middle of subprime loans.
Right, exactly.
Stuff, yeah. So.
Well, at that time, people were staying in their homes on average every 5 to 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then we saw, which is interesting, right? If you're a real estate agent or if you're in mortgage lending, and you know that on average, people are moving every 5 to 7 years, which now seems very frequent. When I say that, that feels like, wow, they're moving all the time. But it's kind of what we did, right? People were in various stages of life, and either we just had kids, or the kids are getting bigger, or the kids just moved out, or whatever the situation was. So now we look at 2008, and the first time that I saw the numbers change, it went to 10 years. So now, after the financial crisis, now people were staying in their homes longer. I don't really know what the number is today, but it's got to be 10 to 12 years, something like that. So now you've got people staying in their homes longer. They've been locked in their houses for months, and you must have this conversation with sellers and even buyers of other properties that aren't first-time home buyers, or even renters. I'm sure it's much worse. Oh my goodness, I can't even imagine what it would be like to be a renter and being locked into a situation which is not yours, that you can't do anything to change. But even as a homeowner, it's like, Enrique, we need a bigger backyard. I need a home office. You know, now we've got companies like Twitter and others that are saying,
Stay home.
Can work from home. Yeah, it's fine. Like, no problem. So suddenly, you know what I'm seeing then? I've got a cousin right now in Glendale that's got a house that's maybe 1,200 square feet that's worth $850,000. Why? Because of the proximity to LA, right? Because now somebody could drive to LA, go up 27 floors to their office in the high rise. I think that's going to become less and less prevalent. And so now the whole point of this rant that I'm on right now is I think we've got people who are just looking at home ownership differently. And to your point, none of those things should be happening, and yet they are. Purchase business is way up.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, I personally think the game changer over the last couple of years is the technology side of it. I want you to picture this, Bill. 10, 15 years ago, if you wanted to buy a house, you had to do two things. You had to call a realtor, and then you had to physically walk into a bank and fill out an application with your banker.
Yeah.
And that was there was no educational tools. Maybe you could go online, or maybe I'm talking 15 years ago, 14 years ago, maybe go online, read some information. But you needed a realtor and you needed a banker. Technology, I mean, I deal with people who English is their second language, and they're able to navigate and purchase a home and get financing without ever setting foot in front of a realtor or setting foot in front of a banker.
That is really interesting.
They're doing a tremendous amount of homework in terms of there's a ton of information, a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of information. There's a tremendous amount of resources. And of course, we don't have to talk about the millennials, but everybody knows how to go into this machine and start Googling things and finding things, you know? So that's a game changer. That is part of where my all-in mentality came in a couple of years ago, where I realized, I said, you know, everybody is on the computer. Everybody is on Facebook. Everybody is on Instagram. Everybody is doing searching, looking. I need to figure out a way to get in front of these people for a lot less money than what some of these big companies are paying, whether it's big mortgage companies or Zillows or Trulias or Redfins, and to be able to get in front of them. But I can tell you, technology has been the game changer. Everybody can buy a home. everybody can do the homework. It's not just the professionals anymore. So that's changing the game.
Yeah. I love that. So you couldn't have teed up a better segue, because that's precisely where I wanted to go with you. And that is that, at what point, you sort of just answered it, but at what point did you make the decision to focus in on video and social media? Because Enrique, this, that many of your competition have zero interest in that game. First of all, most people are insecure about video in general. They're not comfortable with it. They don't like the way they look. They don't like the way they sound. They're not sure what the content should be. And you seem to just like boldly run towards this. But I'm curious where that started for you. I mean, I get what you just said, that you saw that was the opportunity, but how did you stick your toe in the water? Like, where did this begin?
I love the fact that you say that I boldly run towards it. But the reason why I'm running towards it is because I have a mortgage and college tuition chasing me. That's why I'm running towards it.
Perfect. Yeah.
So I'll tell you the true story for me. It's a two-step. First, what happens is I'm in a fairly small community, Palm Springs, Palm Desert, La Quinta. Even though we are right in the middle of Southern California, it's a small community.
Yeah.
We are disconnected really from LA and San Diego by that freeway, and the fact that we're hotter, temperature's hotter. So a lot of people don't move here. But so we're a small community, and I have a big competitor here in town. I have a bank. It's a banker, very successful, who has 30 loan officers. And I'm going to tell you, he's got deep pockets. So he's got his agents are sitting at the Keller Williams office and the Windermere office, and I couldn't compete. The reality is that I was taking very few loans, and I know I needed to get more loans. And I didn't have the deep pockets for me to be able to spend the money with the marketing agreements that he's got,
Sure.
I'm being very honest. So what I decided to do, I said, well, look, I just got to get myself in front of the computer, maybe record a video, somehow start getting in front of the agents, right? And two things happened. One, at the time I was being coached by another person, and the coaching was different then because it was really about growing the business. This person was trying to help me. Okay, how do you grow your business? And his mantra was, you got to give these agents value. If you don't bring value to the agents have absolutely no reason to send you loans. Because everybody's kind of closing on time, and everybody's kind of got the same good rates, and everybody's got good service. So what separates one person from the other is what value do you bring? So I started creating this toolbox of things to give agents, whether it was helping them with flyers first, or maybe give them a shout out on their open house or whatever. And what I realized is the response was very positive. So I started putting some videos together online to market that to the agents. Say, hey, listen, if you have an open house, let me know. Maybe I can help you market it a little bit. Little by little, I started doing that. And then I, like a lot of people that are all in marketing video, I read Gary Vee's books, right?
Yep.
And a lot of people get a lot of different things out of this book. Let me tell you what I got out of it. Is that if you think you're doing enough, think again, do more. And then when you're done with that, if you think you're doing enough, think again, do more.
Good.
So this guy's talking now about, Gary Vee is talking about 150 pieces of content a day in order to be able to reach it's impossible, right? But I was doing one every 4 days.
Yep.
And what I realized is doing one every 4 days, it would be like the equivalent of cold calling and calling 3 people and calling it today. Right? Or say, hey, you know what, Bill,
I'm really not getting any results out of this.
Let's go do some door knocking, right? Yeah. Let's knock on 5 doors, and then after 5 doors, we'll go, you know what, let's call it this, let's go have a beer, right? You can't do that. The reality is now you have to get really into the game. So I started putting together a program where I realized that I had to spend devote a certain amount of time a day to produce the content. And then you go, well, how do I produce all this content, and how do I market it, and how do I put it together, and how do I edit it? Well, I'm trying to take loan application and doing all that.
Yeah.
And that's where a big of the shift happened. But you were asking me primarily about how I got there. That's how I got there. I got there out of necessity because I needed to be in front of these agents to be able to bring my value proposition to them.
So good.
Now, my value proposition is much larger now. When you talk about being all in, I mean, I have a full-time videographer that helps me put together all my videos in the Philippines. I have a copywriter that just a stay-at-home mom, she works part-time and she writes all my scripts,
So good.
and shoots them to me. And then I have a full-time director of marketing who is one of the most valuable people in my organization. I eventually had to get there, right? I didn't get there overnight, but I'm all in terms of that, because the amount of content that I have to put out to bring value to my agents is pretty large. For example, today, after I'm done with this, I have to record 12 voice scripts for open houses, you know? So I sit here and I record them, and then I send them to someone, and they take care of all that. And the agents love it because I'm helping them promote their open houses. So I'm doing a lot of stuff like that.
Okay, so I wanted that I was going to ask you about that one in particular, but I want people to be able to visualize what it is that you're doing, and then maybe even more importantly, just tell them how to go see them, because they can find the stuff on your page.
Yeah, the easiest thing is to go to my Facebook page and type both my personal my name and my business page, so you can see some of the content that we are generating.
Perfect.
It is a lot of content.
West Financial.
First West Financial.
Yep.
If you Google that, you'll find me on Facebook or my name.
Yeah, I want, particularly if you're in the mortgage industry, I think it's worth going to see this, because what Enrique has done is, well, I don't want to make an assumption here, but I'm assuming that the open house, the virtual open house idea became even more important over the last few months. Is that not accurate?
Yeah, correct. We've been doing open house videos for agents for almost a year.
Yeah.
But what we did is we changed, we shifted to calling it a virtual open house, you know, and we were more intentional. So we were doing 7 to 10 a week for some select agents. We started doing anywhere between 18 to 25 a week.
Yeah.
And what I always tell agents is, look, I'm not going to sell your house, but if you're doing 2 or 3 different things, you know, you're promoting your houses a certain way, and you help me and you allow me to help you, I have a lot of reach, because I have a team of marketing people now that know how to take a video on Facebook or Instagram and get, you know, over a 3-day period, get 600, 700 views.
Right.
You know, imagine you're a real estate agent, you have an open house, 2 people show up, right? 3?
Sure.
Well, imagine you do a virtual open house and 600 people see the video. And we have the know-how on how to get that video to the right people, you know, without spending a fortune. I think we spend about $3 to $4 a video. Amazing. To get it to all these people.
Amazing.
So it does make sense.
So Enrique, here's what I want people to hear from you: is you prioritize, you identified that this was a guerrilla battle that you could fight against a very large competitor, right? Very wise. You don't want to go head to head with somebody who's bigger than you. Bad idea. So you found a different battle that you could fight. You realized what needed to be done, and this is where most people get locked up, right? They realize that, well, how am I going to do that? I mean, I do loans all day, to your point. You made that comment earlier. I don't have time to do this. I don't have the expertise to do this. So first of all, I think, and I want you to tell me, but it sounds like you identified, okay, I need some players here. I need somebody that can help me to produce that. I need a copywriter. I need somebody that can put that together. So now all you have to do is lend your voice to it. So how long will it take you to record how many open houses today?
Well, so if you go look at them, you'll see this really well-polished product. But what it is I recorded. I came to my office one day in front of a green screen, and I brought every shirt I owned with my logo. and I recorded these intros where I go, hey, check out this open house. So I recorded them all. So then they all go to Gary. You know, Gary's my guy. And then my copywriter girl goes on the MLS and writes down the little, hey, check out this beautiful home and located in the hills of Ranch Mirage, blah, blah, blah. So she writes that for me. So I'm recording the script. That's really all I'm doing is the voiceover. I connect the microphone to my computer. So it takes me about a minute and a half for each one. Sometimes I have to do 2 takes. And then I have somebody who can put together the voice, the intro, and the video, and that's Gary. He puts it all together. And then here's the best part about it. My teenage daughter, who is 18 years old, who is a college student, goes in and puts it in all the different platforms. So she puts it on Facebook, she puts it on the individual real estate groups in town, and then she goes and shares the post, and then she tags all the agents, and you know, and I pay it a few dollars. So rather than her working at the local place, you know, she's doing this, she's making money, and she's part of the business, and she does a phenomenal job. So we identify a lot of real estate groups. That's where we're getting a lot of the traction. Just, you know, Coachella Valley Real Estate or Coachella Valley this or whatever. So it's a team that we put together, Gary is overseas and he's phenomenal. The reality is I can't afford to hire a professional full-time US-based video editor because I can. But my director of marketing is here, and she sort of does the strategy. She's no longer doing the individual ads and doing some of that because that's not the best use of her time.
Right.
But you know, Megan, for example, who's my stay-at-home mom, you know, she's raising kids and at home, you know, and she loves the idea of being active and using very smart, intelligent woman with a degree who's choosing to stay home and yet being productive and bringing in a couple of extra dollars. So I was able to put together a good team. And that's where people need to get very smart. You know, people say, well, who do I hire? I said, well, for all your social media, hire a teenager to help you post.
Absolutely.
You know, you need video editing. You don't have a lot of budget. Go to Fiverr, go to some of these places, you know, hire some people to try it out, you know, and you'll find help if you know where to look.
So really, really good wisdom there. And I hope people hear this, because what you identify Earl Nightingale years ago, 50 years ago, said the secret to success in business is to find a need and fill it.
Yeah.
You found a need and you filled it. But where most people, I'm telling you, man, I've been a coach long enough to know this is where people get locked up, is when they say to me, like I'll say something in a call and they'll say, oh, that was really good. Can you say that again? I'm like, probably not. I'll try. But what they're hungry for is like, give me the words. Give me that. So somebody listening to this right now is say, oh, Enrique, can I get your gal? Can I get your guy? And like, that's a possibility. But the bigger issue is here, don't think that way. Think, what is the need that I have? How do I have a grandson right now who is he's just starting UCLA film school. He's a brilliant writer. So sometimes for, you know, $100, I'll just send him a project and he'll just clean this thing up and make it. So like Todd Duncan used to say to us, who do you know who knows who you want to know? We all know somebody. You know somebody who was a videographer at a wedding that knows how to put stuff together. They're happy to do some editing at home right now and earn some extra money. You know somebody who, to your point, is staying home, has a certain skill set, can do something for you. You guys, don't let the resources lock you up, whether it's a direct referral or Fiverr or just some other resource. There are people that can do what you need done for a fraction of the cost of what it would cost you to do locally. Yeah.
And this is really just a portion of my idea of being all in terms of social media and video. Of course, I say this, my disclaimer is that I actually now have someone helping me with this, because the amount of content that I put is pretty large. I have something called the Monday Mortgage Minute that goes out to realtors both on social media and direct mail. It's a minute where I talk about mortgages every Monday. On Thursdays, I have the First Time Buyer channel, the YouTube video that actually talks about how to be a first-time buyer. What are the topics that are interesting to that? I have my two cents. And then we're doing something called a Realtor Toolbox Daily. We're actually recording 6 or 7 of these things at a time, and we publish them daily, and they're about 30, 40 seconds. This week, we're talking all week about Instagram. You know, next week, we talked about FHA loans or whatever it is, but we talk about how to help agents market. What I've learned is that I've had to spend a lot of money and a lot of effort and a lot of time learning to market my mortgage business.
Right.
And what I've learned, I said, hey, I can help these agents use the exact same thing because they're very, very similar industries, and I can help them. So I do video classes, how to succeed with video. I do classes on social media. Right now I'm not meeting with them one-on-one, but I'm meeting with agents on Zoom and say, okay, how can I help you get better at doing this?
Nice.
I think the challenge is a lot of these agents see the value, understand it, but they have so many hangups, whether I don't like the way I sound, or I don't know that I can do this, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I get calls from loan officers weekly who want to pick my brain. And I think they're a good opportunity for me to share a little bit.
You're going to get more after this, by the way. Yeah.
Well, of course, but they call me. So, okay, how do I do this? Or what camera do you use? Or what light? And I go, whoa, you're way off here. I use an iPhone, and I use a $20 light and a $10 microphone. And then people say, well, what about the content? I don't know what to say. You're also missing the point on that. The most important thing when it comes to video and social media is not the content and it's not the equipment. Is the frequency and the consistency.
Totally.
That is the biggest piece of advice I give people. It's like, look,
Yep.
if you're a loan officer, you can come up with 20 topics that you can talk about. You can talk about credit. You can talk about down payment. You can talk about types of loans. You can talk about VA. You can talk about, assets. You can talk about mortgage insurance. If you can come up with a topic, then quit, right?
Sure.
Because you're not gonna. And the equipment is irrelevant. The idea and the consistency is very, very important.
Absolutely.
I have a guy who decided he was going to copy me, right? So instead of the Monday Mortgage Minute, he started doing the Monday Mortgage Moment. I mean, like I promised it.
That's so close.
Right. And then instead of the first time buyer channel, it was like the first time buyer university, whatever.
Oh,
but I loved it because I go, imitation, right?
Of course. Greatest form of
but
flattery.
here's what I told my wife. I said, okay, let's track this. 2 weeks. You do it for 2 weeks, right? So I'm on my year and a half of doing it, right? Do I want to do it? No.
Sure.
Do I sometimes go, why am I even doing this? Nobody watches the thing. Yeah, well, guess what? They do watch it.
Yeah.
And they do.
For sure.
And it's the consistency that matters.
That's the key, man.
People get hung up on, okay, what am I saying? And the script, and
Yep.
do it consistently.
I love that, man. I hope if you're listening to this right down, you can register that in your head or write it down if you're not driving. But that idea, first of all, the one thing that you said is just gospel truth. People get hung up on equipment and scripting and what should I talk about. And I think what happened in your head is what happened in my head when I started doing video. And it was just the decision. It's like, I'm just going to jump into this. I'm just going to do this. And so my first videos were with a flip camera. Do you remember those? Mm-hmm. Silly little camera with a button on the bottom. Mm-hmm. And nowadays, like the iPhone is magnificent. And I'm sure Androids are every bit as good, if not better. So the equipment is not the issue. It is not that. It is more a matter of jumping into the water and making a commitment. And Enrique is telling you something that you won't hear anyplace else. And that is the frequency matters. Mike Hyatt has said this for years, and Gary Vaynerchuk talks about the same thing, but it's what you do is you build this expectation that, oh, he's going to be there. I don't know if you remember Greg Frost or not. Greg Frost was the guy in Albuquerque, New Mexico, first loan originator, I think, to do $1 billion in mortgages. And he used to do a first-time home buyers event. I think it was every week. I remember him talking about this 15 years ago on stage, not at your old hotel, at the Marriott Desert Springs. And I'm fairly certain he did it every single week. And he did it not in conjunction with the realtor. Realtors were invited to send their people. But the point was, at the back of the room, his assistant sat there with a physical calendar and said, okay, when would you like to meet with Greg? So it was all the old school version of what you're doing right now, but the same predictability, right? You're just
Correct.
Doing it virtually.
Correct. That is correct.
Brilliant.
And part of the challenge is, of course, bring value to your agents. That's a mantra
Sure.
of mine. I'm always talking to Sarah. Sarah's my director of marketing. And she's a very, very smart person. She married my son, so
Right.
Of course, genius, right? But it has nothing to do with it. She's absolutely brilliant. And one of the things that I always talk to her about is we got to bring value. Let's
Totally.
always look for things that realtors see valuable. Let's adopt that. Let's give it to them.
That's
whether
right.
it's a piece of software. Right now, we're in love with HomeBot. We're in love with Lead Pops. We're doing all these
Sure.
different things for them, and it's all about value. The thing about the frequency, I want you to picture this. If you're a loan officer, I want you to picture that social media is like a river. That river used to flow very slow, right? So if you logged in, you would probably see Bill's thing or my thing if you phone. Well, the river is flowing so fast that Bill, if you don't log in and you don't see Bill's video, and you log in 2-3 hours later, you're not gonna see it. It's gone.
Sure.
There's so much more content that's been put out that is gone. Look at your Instagram. If you haven't scrolled in an hour or two, some of those posts are gone. So that's the reason
Sure.
why we're having to create more frequency and more content daily, is because it used to be that if you put a video, 60-70% of your feed, people on your feed would see it.
Sure.
Now it's probably 5 or 10% because it's moving so fast.
That's right.
The other thing is, if you're putting a lot of content and you're doing it frequently and you're getting likes and follows, Facebook, Instagram, they're going to show that as relevant, and
Right.
they're going to prominently display you more.
That's
so when
right.
Bill logs into my page, Facebook will go, oh, you know what? He's going to be interested in seeing this. And then they put Enrique stuff in there because he's done that before. So that's the main reason for the frequency.
That's a great
so
description.
You think in terms of, oh, I already put 2 videos today. Well, so what? Put 4. Because the reality is a lot of people are not going to see even 1. So you got to put them out there, or sometimes we replay the stuff, or sometimes we share it in 2 different ways. And that's just how we're getting in front of people.
So this is exactly where I was hoping this interview would go, because that you get so animated about this and you're so excited about it, Enrique. Dude, I love your DNA. I love the fact that you were in hospitality because you learned, I mean, for me, I learned it as a busboy, a waiter, and a bartender, right? That's where you learn customer service, because your income lives or dies based on how well you interact with people. In hospitality, you are measured on that. And didn't you tell me about you told me about some kind of measurement numbers at some point, right? Customer service numbers, and you were ranking very high?
Exactly. You have to, that's a very important part of that. It's to be able to have those high rankings. Yeah.
But to take that, which is a very respectable, nice suit, got the Marriott tag, and then you're in the timeshare business, which is, dude, you live or die by who you have signing on the dotted line while they're in the room.
Yeah.
There's no be-backs and timeshares.
There is no be-back.
It's like they got to make something happen right now. So I love that that juxtaposition of taking those 2 worlds and then bringing into this world and figuring out how to fight the Davids, the Goliaths, with you being the David. Man, you've just got a phenomenal story, and you are such a cool example of being all in. I love your spirit, Enrique. I love your smile. I love your conviction, and I love your heart. And I know today that you touch some people and encourage them. So, look, we're going to have all your stuff in the show notes here, so down below people can figure out how to find you. But if you were just going to encourage somebody right now and they're not even going to look at the show notes, like, what's the easiest way for them to find you?
Well, most Facebook, really. That's the best place. It's a good place to start. My website is more mortgage related, but if you want to see my content, if you want to learn about some of the things that I'm doing, just Google my name. You're going to put it right here because it's got 14 letters is my last name. But the First West Financial, one of the things I want to leave with is the thought that when you listen to this podcast, sometimes, you're very fortunate you've had an opportunity to talk to some amazing people. Like I was listening to the podcast from the guy from Movement Mortgage, retired NFL player. It's very, very amazing, difficult to relate for some people.
Yep.
Because I'm over here. Most of the people listening to this are, a guy maybe with an assistant trying to grind 10 loans, trying to hopefully make a living. And sometimes we forget that, we are the bulk of this industry, the independent guys, the small guys that are out there in small towns and small locations, with one assistant and a processor trying to make it work.
Yep.
And we need, the resources are there for us to look, sound, and be like those big companies.
For sure.
And of course, I'm a big believer of the independent broker. I love Anthony Casa and everything he's doing with AIM and how he's put us back on the map. And that's great. But you know what? We still got to get up and do this. And we still got to get up and work hard and never feel like, oh, I'm just a mortgage broker. I'm just a small guy. We have great opportunities and we have great resources out there that we can tap. But just Google me or find me on Facebook and take a look at my stuff. And if you want to contact me, direct message works. I try to get back to everybody on a timely manner, but it's my pleasure. I love helping people out.
Well, it shows, and that last 3 minutes right there, that passion of yours, Enrique, it's what makes you so likable. Tim Sanders wrote a book called The Likability Factor, and you have it in buckets, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate you making the time today. And I know you got to roll into recording some open house recordings right now, so go do your thing, my friend, but thanks for being with us today, and continued success to you in all that you do.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, Enrique. Take care, man.